Shalom, Yasharallah. This your brother Dawada, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that taught us his truth and that rule well. And salutation, much love for you, Akim, pushing his truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here article real quick, which says some NATO members furious with Biden. All right, as we're getting closer and closer to the end, you're starting to see a lot more of these prophecies, coming together to, or some of these pieces coming together to fulfill these prophecies, as far as going into, basically America's allies, all right, turning on America, ultimately shooting missiles on America, man, all right, because of the things that the moves and the things that America is doing, all right, just like dragging them into endless wars, trying to get them to increase their spending into the NATO military budget where these other nations don't, benefit from any of these things. All right. And, their number one enemy is Russia. And right now, Russia is trying to, become a supplier of natural gas to Europe. All right. Which will benefit the European, basically the EU. All right. But, those are America's allies, and America, wants to put sanctions on them over these things. But nevertheless, all these things are shaping up, again, like I said, to bring forth the fulfillment of prophecy. All right, it says U.S. President Joe Biden has come under fire from Eastern European members of NATO after proposals to organize meeting between the American-led bloc, all right, going into the whore that rideth upon the beast, all right, America being the whore that's controlling the beast being NATO and the EU, all right, like I just said, they have like I forgot what's the name of the little thing they have, but nevertheless, they have like a pact that says, basically, if anybody attacks any of these NATO members, that all of NATO is going to come to a response. All right. But nevertheless, the only people that gets to benefit from these war games basically is America. All right. America will drag these other nations into war. All right. And get them to increase their military spending. But what, on a reverse, none of these other nations are the ones that's going out and going, stirring up the mess with these other nations. It's just America, man. All right. And these other nations are, having to pay the toll on these things, It says that's according to the American news agency Bloomberg, which cited an anonymous diplomat claiming that the unnamed country is furious and seek immediate clarification, just precisely what Biden plans to discuss with Moscow. And again, with these lies, because, they're pushing so hard, and again, having these other nations beef up their NATO spending, all right, to so-called go against Russia, all right. You also have other situations like where they say they got basically they'll put sanctions on any nation that's buying Russian oil. But then not so long ago, America pretty much was putting sanctions on other nations as well, like Venezuela and stuff like that. So they couldn't get oil from there. But then they wound up going to go get oil from Russia. So, this is one of the reasons that, you have nations like Germany that's upset about that, and also having to up their military budget. But again, it's not benefiting them. It's just only costing them. All right. So it says another source, also a diplomat, expressed concerns that the U.S. may approve concessions that might lead to political guarantees and curbs on NATO's freedom of movement. Biden's announcement that he wants a meeting between NATO and Moscow came after the virtual summit with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin on Tuesday. Following the discussion, he spoke with the leaders of other NATO member states such as UK's Boris Johnson and France Emmanuel Macron. According to the U.S. president, there was talks about, beforehand, this was America's plan basically to not to say drop NATO, but reform NATO, get rid of some of those people and I believe add one or two other nations, But nevertheless, these are all talks that they had beforehand. But we know ultimately that America's allies are going to ultimately turn on America anyway. But again, like I said, these are just the things that stirring them all up, doing deals like with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, is pissing off Germany. All right. You got the the US, UK, AU or Australia situation with the nuclear powered submarines, whereas I believe it was Australia and France wanted to make that deal. All right, but nevertheless, over diesel powered ones. But hey, America's cutting them out of the picture, man. All right, so this is causing that sour taste into America's allies' mouth, man. All right, getting them to look at them a little sideways. It says, according to the U.S. president, the future talks will include at least 4 of our major NATO allies. That has left the smaller Eastern European member states wondering if they would be excluded in favor of Western European allies, Bloomberg has claimed. The purpose of the meeting would be to discuss Russia's concern about NATO enlargement and the possibility of agreeing on arrangements that would reduce tensions on the Allies' eastern flank, Biden has said. All right, these are all their so-called, like they pouring up that Babylonian juice, right? Because we know ultimately, and you can go back to some of these guys like, what was his name? Albert Pike, I believe it was, that came up with this, where he pretty much before, this was, in the 1700s, I believe, where he pretty much came up with, World War I, World War II, and World War III, and all the players and what the conflicts would be started over and what the outcome would be over these things. So we know that this is their plan. Ultimately this is what their plan is. But we know, even more a sure word that the prophecies speak on these things, man. All right. It says the increased push for discussions comes as tensions remain high on Russian-Ukraine border. The U.S.-led NATO bloc has warned Moscow that any military aggression against Ukraine will be met with severe financial measures, while Russia has denied all accusations that it is planning such a maneuver. In which this is, all this wording and everything else like this is just all, it's all fluff. I was speaking to somebody about this the other day, about, I forgot how they presented the story to me, but I was like, look, you see how you presented the story as if Russia's the aggressor. And I went on a Google search and I typed in, U.S. military bases around the globe and NATO military bases around the globe. All right. And you would see on a map, pretty much, they have Russia surrounded. All right. But then when you go, I believe on one of the images, I can't remember if it was the American bases or the NATO bases, but it was like 35 bases pretty much up on their border where Russia only had, I believe, like 5 or 9 of those bases over there, and that's on their own property, man. All right. But nevertheless, they have, this here agenda to basically encompass Russia and wage war against them. But we know that this is going to lead them to the king of terrors, man, ultimately. All right. But hey, like I said, this is also bringing forth, how do I say, the fulfillment of the beast, hate, and the whore. All these little small movements and things like that. All right. It says, Job 18:5, it says, yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out. The spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him. All right. So, hey, all his, you have basically these people, you would call them like the elites or the Illuminati, the enlightened ones, the movers and the shakers of everything, and they have their plans and their agendas and the things that they're doing, all right, to get a so-called a certain outcome. But these things are all going to wind up backfiring on them, man. They're going to bring, well, we'll read it. It says, verse 7, the steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. All right. So, hey, this is, his plans and his agendas. As you can see in this here article with the so-called NATO and Russia talks. All right. You got other NATO members that's upset about that, because you got to think about this. If they've been being sold, alive for so long, and it's not just that you was lying to them, there's actual consequences behind this. Hey, man, you've been having us spend all this here money, military budget, because Russia's the threat. Russia's a threat. We've been denying, getting, how do you say, imports from Russia and everything else like that, and the sanctions, and we could be benefiting off all these things. And now your ass want to go over there and start talking to them and making deals with them, man. All right, how can we believe you over these things? Just like I said about how they put the sanctions on any of their or any nation that wanted to buy this here Russian oil, but then they go turn around and go buy Russian oil. It's like, what kind of hypocrite are we dealing with? But see, even these other nations are realizing that they're dealing with the devil. All right, and they're gonna wind up turning all their like the scripts say, stand round about and shoot all your arrows at her, roughly paraphrasing. All right, this is going to get them to all turn on to America, man, and start, emptying their arsenal over here, man. Turn this place into the lake of fire. All right. Verse 8, for he is cast into a net by his own feet, and he walketh upon a snare. The jinn shall take him by the heel, and the robber shall prevail against him. The snare is laid for him in the ground, and a trap for him in the way. All right. And so, again, well, let me, just going into all these things, they have certain, just like how Esau plays these damn traps and snares on the civilian population, especially Jake, it's like, they go out with we use the housing crisis situation, had all these subprime mortgage deals going out and everything else like that. But it was a snare or a trap that was laid to catch people up in. All right. But this is the same thing that's going on. But in this here snare and this here trap, all right, Esau's going to want to get caught in his own situation. Hey, maybe if we can, try to supplant Russia by saying, we're in agreement with them and so on and so forth, maybe we can get a little bit closer get a little closer upon them. But at the end of the day, what you're really doing is, again, you have one enemy, all right? But then now your certain moves that you making is creating multiple and more enemies, man. Just like with people like Turkey, all right, because they didn't, well, not to say that they didn't want to sell them the actually I think they didn't want to sell them the S3, not the S300, the Patriot system, all right, or missile defense system, whether it was the Patriot or the THAAD system, all right. They didn't want to sell them those things, or maybe they did or they didn't. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But nevertheless, the price of it, first of all, this is a way older system. It's like in comparison to Russia having and selling the S300, S400, but then them having that, but then they're selling the S125 to everybody. It's like, we don't want that. We want the new shit. All right. But hey, America hasn't really upgraded their missile defense systems and things like that. All right. And it costs double the price of the Russian made counterpart. All right. And the Russian counterpart has a way better accuracy rate than the Americans. All right. But nevertheless, with that situation with Turkey, all right, that pretty much got them to start buying these S300 or the S400, all right, and then they got kicked out of the so-called F-35 program, all right, and got sanctions put on them, but then they wound up throwing sanctions back on America, all right, but got kicked out of the F-35 program, and now you got the new the revealing of Russia's new advanced, the same plane, but, a little upgraded plane with the AI technology. And guess what? It's cheaper than the F-35. So if America don't want to sell them F-35s, they'll just go get them from Russia, which is a way more superior plane than the American one. So now America's stuck without, they got to, like, what you going to say to something to us? All right, we'll just leave NATO and then we'll be a part of one of your enemies. So you only had one enemy to begin with. Now you got two. Now you got more nations with this Russian equipment that you can't even stand against, man. All right, so this is ultimately happening with the majority of America's allies at this here point in time, but ultimately it's going to end up with all of the American allies turning on them, man. All right. It says, verse 11, terror shall make him afraid on every side and shall drive him to his feet. All right. So, hey, right now, with certain things and dealing with the Ukraine and everything else like that, which that's a part of Russia. All right. They didn't went over there and created basically two different nations over there. All right, put a little fake ass border in the middle, just like North Korea or the Korea situation. America went over there and made a border over there. Now you got two different nations, but it's the same damn nation. All right, but same thing. They didn't went over there with their little fake ass puppet over there in Ukraine. All right, and getting them to so-called, they're watching the words that they use. They're saying, Ukraine isn't a NATO member, but they're a close friend or whatever, but nevertheless, and we're not sending military troops over there, military equipment, but we might need to have some advisors over there. All right, we already know how these things end. All right, but hey, nevertheless, they're only being brought to their own demise. All right, all these little moves that they're trying to make to so-called supplant, their adversaries is only bringing their adversaries to the battlefield, man. All right, to waste America. And then again, with their own allies, is going to leave them out there high and dry, man. All right. Verse 12. His strength shall be hunger bitten, and destruction shall be ready at his side. It shall devour the strength of his skin. Even the firstborn of death shall devour his strength. All right. His confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle, and it shall bring him to the king of terrors. So, hey, it's going to be a certain point, because, they're trying with all their witchcraft and everything else like that to finish and get their so-called New World Order agenda and everything else like that. But, sometimes when you have let's say you're taking a test, right? And you have plenty of time to take this here test. You take the time to read every question. All right, think about certain things and, counsel yourself. Is this the answer? That's the answer, process of elimination type things like that. But hey, man, if it's like the last minute of the test, all right, and you got like 50 questions left, what do? You just start Christmas tree in that bad boy, man. All right, you start, getting sloppy with it. All right, so this is basically what America's getting into a situation like that, man. All right, to where they're starting to make these moves out of desperation. All right, and they start making sloppy moves. They didn't even think about how these types of things would affect, their allies, like going back into the submarine situation, man. All right, you had all your allies on your side, and some of them was a little, slighted about certain things here and there. But now, all of a sudden, they're reconsidering if they even want to be your ally anymore, man. All right, and then what are they? They're not really losing anything by leaving your side. If anything, they're gaining something by going to the Russian side, man. All right, but hey, nevertheless, America don't see these things because they're stuck in their pride, man. All right, let me go from there to we can get that. Let me get over that. Obadiah 1:7 says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. All right. And so, hey, the men's that the nations they were in conglomeration with, all right, their allies, all right, their allies have even brought them to the border, all right, out for war. All right. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. All right. So, hey, the ones that, again, your allies, they're, right now they're telling you, yeah, we cool, everything fine, everything else like that. But hey, behind closed doors, they're making deals with Russia. All right. You see certain things like that where people, maybe having a prank war, whatever it is like that. They think that this is, going in their favor and they didn't got one up on the other person. But come to find out, they get exposed like, nah, we didn't set your ass up, man. All right. You thought you were setting us up, but you've ultimately got set up. All right. It says the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee, and they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is no understanding in him. So the ones that's eating their bread, all right, the ones that's being so-called propped up or nourished by America, all right, those are the ones that's going to wind up turning on you, man. But guess what? You didn't give them your weapons, your technology, training on how to use these things, and also the vulnerabilities of your weapons and your weapon systems. Like, for instance, again, Turkey, all right, because they was part of not only the F-35 program, but is also a part of developing portions of that plane, like the heads-up display, all right, and some other electronic components, all right. So, hey, you get rid of them, what they gonna do? They're gonna go take your little secrets over to Russia, man. All right, you get rid of them, they're gonna just buy the Russian equipment, which is more superior than yours. How you gonna defend yourself against that, man? All right, and then you've already pissed them off, so they got a bad taste in their mouth. So you think they ain't gonna use it on your ass? All right, but this is ultimately prophecy being a setup to play out, man. All right, let me go to we'll close out here real quick. Revelation 17 and 16. All right, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, all right, these shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So again, going back into the beast and the whore, all right, the whore is the one that's riding upon the beast. Or so to give it to you in a more visual situation. You got a horse, a jockey, and then you got the horse, right? In the horse races and things like that. The jockey is over there controlling the horse, how fast he runs, which direction he runs in, and everything else like that, man. All right, and the horse is just the so-called vehicle to transport the jockey. All right, so the horse is gonna go wherever he's being led to go. All right. So in the same scenario, America being the jockey or the horse rider, all right, is controlling the beast or the horse, all right, which is NATO and the EU. They're military. All right. They're the ones that directing that military arm of NATO, man. All right. But nevertheless, it says the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. All right. These shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Because ultimately, we can read a little bit about this in Jeremiah, about them, all ye archers that bend the bow, stand round about, and, and shoot all your arrows at her, and spare none, have no pity, roughly paraphrasing. All right. We know that this is all going to take place because, we can read about this in multiple places in the scriptures as far as prophecy. And now you're starting to see the, or we'll actually close out with that. In Habakkuk, I'll just quote it, the visions yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie, though. Tarry, wait for it, it will surely come. All right. But nevertheless, a couple years back, you would think about this like, nah, these are America's allies. They rocking with America to the end. You would never think that these things would happen like that. But nevertheless, as time goes on and prophecy reveals itself, like you had the Brexit. All right, the UK wound up leaving the EU. All right, and everything else like that, man. And more of those members want to succeed as well and go back to being their own sovereign state, because they don't really benefit from any of these things. And with these types of talks with NATO and Moscow, and only a certain of the NATO allies being invited, again, you have these other ones that's already slighted about these things, and they already want to leave anyway, man. All right, so hey, this is his own counsel is going to bring him to his own demise, his own agenda, his own how do I say, his own plans, and his own his own, how do I say, his own dirty work, basically, is going to bring his allies to wind up turning on him, man. When he think he finessing them, they're going to wind up finessing him. All right. It says, verse 17, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will. All right. What's the Most High's will? All right. To destroy the land of Babylon. All right. It says, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. All right. So, hey, they're going to be in cahoots with or they're going to be in conglomeration with America for a certain amount of time, all right, until we get all the way to the end, that Russian aggression, all right, that big buildup against Russia. But at the end all be all, they're going to want to, siding with Russia, all right, and coming and spoiling the land of Babylon, which is America, man. All right, so we see that these prophecies are starting to speak loud and clear. Are you seeing more and more stories in the news that's making this more, not to say more believable, but more seeable. All right, we can see these things happening because, like I said, we can keep going back to the Turkey situation, all right, or the Australia situation, all right, or the German situation. We got so many different nations we could talk about, which are American allies or NATO members and things like that. But now they're being slighted in a distasteful way. All right, which is making them look at America a certain type of way. So we can see, oh yeah, they all on the verge of turning right about now, man. We can see how these people all leave America out in the war. They'll all go out to the battlefield together and then wind up just turning around, and America turn around and realize they out there by their damn self, man. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, the elect was edified with this here lesson. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of great millstone that taught us this truth and ever will. And citation of much love for you, I can push in this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Till next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.